Ας περάσουμε στο επόμενο θέμα. Η συνεργάτηδά μας Ελευθερία Σωφρονίου φιλοξενεί τον χημικό και μικροβιολόγο δόκτωρ Andrew Sergis από το Sergis Academy. Ο ελληνοκύπριος επιστήμονας απαντά σε επίκαιρες ερωτήσεις που αφορούν στην πανδημία του κορονοϊού και μας δίνει οδηγίες για το πώς θα προφυλαχτούμε από αυτή την επικίνδυνη πανδημία που μαστίζει την ανθρωπότητα. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε αυτή την ενδιαφέρουσα συνέντευξη.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, να σας καλωσορίσουμε στην εκπομπή μας εδώ στο Hellenic TV, γιατί έχουμε τη χαρά και την τιμή να έχουμε μαζί μας τον δόκτωρ Andrew Sergis. Είναι ένας επιστήμονας, ένας λαμπρός επιστήμονας στον χώρο των μαθηματικών και της χημείας, με πάρα πολλά εργαστήρια στο βιογραφικό του. Θέλουμε να σας καλωσορίσουμε. We would like to welcome you, Dr. Andrew Sergis. Θα μιλήσουμε σχετικά με τις εξελίξεις όσον αφορά τον ιό του κορονοϊού, τον κορονοϊό. Θέλουμε λοιπόν να μας πείτε διάφορες εξελίξεις, γιατί έχετε κάνει μια μεγάλη έρευνα όσον αφορά αυτό το θέμα. We would like to discuss with you the current situation in regards to the new coronavirus mutants. We know that you have a wide interest in regards the biomedicine, medicine, and the coronavirus. What is the current situation in regards to coronavirus?
Thank you for inviting me over, and it's a pleasure to be here with you and to discuss the latest updates with regard to the pandemic and how what the latest situation is with the mutants that have evolved over the last few months, and the different vaccines that are available to treat the coronavirus variants, as well as the original COVID-19 coronavirus. Now, first of all, as you know, that we've been on several lockdowns in Europe and in the UK because of this COVID-19 virus that has been quite prolific in causing dreadful illnesses and sadly many deaths. Now, since I last spoke to you over the last few months, there have been mutations, as there is commonly new mutations in viruses. For example, the common flu virus mutates quite regularly. In fact, all viruses mutate regularly. So over time, they do mutate, and which is why we have to have a flu vaccine once a year. And the flu vaccine is modified to be able to treat the new mutated flu viruses. In a similar way, the coronavirus is no different from other viruses. They do mutate, and they have mutated, and they've produced several new mutants, or we call them variants. And so this particular virus that has afflicted us for the last more than a year now, we call it the COVID-19 virus, is the actual scientific name for it is the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And recently, there are different, well, first of all, let me say that there are different kinds of viruses depending on the information it has to duplicate. So in my last discussion with you, I gave you an introduction of how viruses work. They invade the body, and they actually invade the cells of our bodies. So we've got many thousands of cells in our bodies. So they invade each cell. When they invade the cell, they take the machinery of the cell, and the actual genetic material of the virus instructs our cells to make more viruses. And then eventually enough viruses are produced, and they're released from our cells, and then only to infect other cells as well. So eventually, the body, in fact, succumbs to this virus, and that leads to death, sadly, and of course, and many symptoms beforehand. So the virus duplicates in our cells, like I discussed with you in my last interviews, and So there are two kinds of viruses, first of all. There's a DNA virus and an RNA virus. Now, this virus is an RNA virus. RNA viruses and RNA and DNA is the genetic information that instructs our cells to make more viruses. So when it infects cells, it can make more viruses because it has this information, if you like, this memory circuit inside it. And so there's two kinds of information circuits. In other words, genes, as we normally call them, the RNA or the DNA. So these kinds of viruses are called RNA viruses, similar to the flu virus. And so what recently, when it duplicates, it makes mistakes. This virus, like other viruses, make mistakes, and that produces mutations. And most mutations are in fact harmless, and a lot of mutations are also harmful to the virus. So eventually it stops, it dies, and it doesn't reproduce anymore. But out of all the mutations, out of all the mistakes the virus makes when it duplicates in our cells, very few are in fact beneficial to the virus. Now, when they are beneficial to the virus doesn't die, so it duplicates even more, becomes more infectious, and the actual information of the virus makes it more likely to infect us, and it produces more viruses. And this is the situation we have. This is the problem that we've been having now since December and around October. That actually mutated. So that those viruses have become beneficial to the virus, thereby producing more infections. And there's three main viruses that are in fact of concern to us, and they are the ones which one of them has in fact developed in the UK in the fall of 2020, that is in autumn of 2020, and this is called the B117 virus. And the other virus is the one from South Africa, and that's more of a danger. And it's been known to overcome the antibodies that we produce. So the antibodies are the immune system that enables us, our little soldiers, if you like, that enables us to fight the viruses. So this one from South Africa is particularly dangerous, and it's called the B1351 virus. And again, that developed around autumn time last year. And then a more recent one that was discovered in Brazil is called the P1 virus. So we've got these two viruses, which are mutants, which are variations of normal COVID-19 virus, which are of concern to us. The one from United Kingdom called the B117, the one from South Africa, and the one from Brazil. So I'm going to discuss the situation with these viruses. Why are they a concern to us, and how we can actually fight them with the new vaccines.
I would like to ask you if the people who are vaccinated are protected from these variations, from these mutants.
Absolutely. So first of all, we know that the vaccines that are available to us, if I could just briefly outline the different vaccines that are available. We've got the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, and that's been known to be 90% effective. Now, the percentage effectiveness doesn't mean for every 100 people that have been vaccinated, 95 will not be afflicted with the COVID-19. Doesn't mean that out of every 100 people, 95 will basically survive the COVID-19 and won't have any symptoms. It just basically, the statistics, 95% effective for the Pfizer vaccine, for example, means that they've done clinical trials, and in the clinical trials they've compared, for example, the control vaccines and those number of people that took the vaccine. So basically it's on the clinical side they did on a small sample of people. In terms of population, we don't know, varies the effectiveness. But in terms of the general average effectiveness, we're looking at around 90%, and that's the Pfizer vaccine, and it's been found to have a good effect on the mutant virus from the United Kingdom, and it has basically, in terms of its effectiveness, it's very good with the COVID-19 virus, but with the mutant virus that's recently arisen in the UK, it's slightly less effective, but it's still, the effectiveness is still very good for the mutant virus from the United Kingdom. But with the Pfizer vaccine, the one from the South Africa is much less effective. So it could be like, I think it's around 30% effective. So it doesn't, it's not so effective against the South African virus, the Pfizer vaccine. And with the Brazil, the mutant from the Brazil, the virus from the Brazil, again, the Pfizer vaccine is reasonably effective. So that's the Pfizer vaccine. So now with the Moderna vaccine, again, we've got effectiveness, and we're looking at 94% effectiveness. Again, not so effective against the South African mutant, not so effective against the South African virus mutant. Then we've got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, again, with similar effectiveness, like with the other two. And then we've got other vaccines like the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, the Novavax vaccine, and the Sinopharm vaccine. And then there's the Russian Sputnik V vaccine. Again, they have similar effectiveness against all these different mutants. Now, we can say basically, in general, that we've got all these different vaccines available, but they have different effectiveness against different variants. And the one that's concerned to us is the one from South Africa. So it doesn't seem to be effective. All the vaccines not seem to be effective against the one from South Africa, I'm afraid. But again, more research needs to be done on how these new variants produce diseases and what symptoms they have. So it's relatively recently we've discovered these new variants. So we need to do more research to try and maybe find better vaccines to actually fight these new variants. Now, important to protect ourselves is important. Now, with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, you only need to have to be vaccinated once. So you need to have one jab, and that should be fine. But with the others, you need to have two jabs.
2 doses.
Sorry?
2 doses.
That's right, 2 doses, that's right. And once you have the first jab, the first dose, it's not enough. A lot of people have this false sense of security, feeling that if you have one jab, you're reasonably protected or not. So even if you have one jab, you've got some degree of protection, but you still have to follow the rules. And you have to imagine that you still haven't been vaccinated, even if you have one jab, because there's no guarantee that it will give you a better protection. So you have to wait for the next jab. And even once you get the second jab, again, we're looking at effectiveness between 80% or 95%. So there's no guarantee you're not going to get the disease from these viruses. So you still have to be cautious once you get vaccinated. And in order to protect yourself, first of all, we have to wear masks, and everywhere you go, when you go outside in the shops, and again, keep your distance from people from different households. And one particular advice I'd like to give our audience is that it's important to try double masking. That is when you got two masks, one on top of each other. That offers even a greater protection against the droplets that arise when people sneeze who are infected. So double masking, it would be a good idea. Thirdly, wash your hands, again, with soap and water. If soap and water is not available, then a sanitizer that has at least 60% alcohol is important. That should be effective enough. And again, practice physical distancing. So we're looking at reasonable distance away, at maybe 2 meters, at least 2 meters away from other people. And like I said, above all, always wear a mask when you go outside. The bottom line is this. All viruses mutate, right? It's part of evolution, including the new coronavirus that we just discussed. Several new variants or mutants of the coronavirus have recently been identified. I'm just summarizing. These variants differ from earlier virus in that they're transferred faster between one individual to the other, so more infectious. Now, some, such as the one from South Africa, first seen there back in around autumn time last year, may also affect immunity and vaccine effectiveness. So it tends to ignore antibodies. In other words, our little soldiers that are produced to protect us. So that's a particularly dangerous one. Now, research into the currently identified coronavirus variants, in other words, the mutants, is rapidly evolving. So more research needs to be done and to see how we can develop vaccines against them. But make sure you can talk to your doctor about, when you're eligible to have the vaccines, and that's important. Again, adhere to these rules of protecting yourself. Wear a mask, maybe double masking if you can. Wash your hands. If you don't have, at the place where you are, if you don't have soap and water, use sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. And then again, practice physical distancing from each other.
Thank you very much for the advice that you have given us to transfer to our audience. Thank you very much for all the updates that you have made and you have mentioned. Everything was so important and so valuable for our health. And hopefully we will proceed and everything, the situation that we live will be a past. Will be a past. Thank you very much for everything.
Real pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Εδώ να σας αναφέρουμε ότι ο δόκτωρ Andrew Sergis είναι επίσης φιλοξενούμενος αυτή την Κυριακή στην εκπομπή Διαλέγω Καριέρα με την Ελευθερία Σωφρονίου.